Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. My name is Donald and I'm joined this week by Shane. How are you?
Not too bad yourself, just coming off packs and relaxing into the holiday period.
Yes, we are deep in the big holiday season for video games. We have games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Battlefield 5 coming out soon. We have Red Dead Redemption 2, which will be reviewed later this episode by Jason. He has thoughts on that game.
Many.
Yeah, but like that is very much a Game of the Year contender in many people's minds. But up until this point, Shane, what has been your highlights of the year so far?
Honestly, like coming into it, it's probably been the games that I've been playing the most. Like Dragon Ball FighterZ, I've been playing a fair amount of time, spending a lot of time grinding that out and just playing with friends and stuff like that. Maybe just recently Soul Calibur 6, I was thinking, yeah, I played a fair amount of that and really enjoyed it. It was a budget title though.
Yeah.
What I thought of the start of this year that I played, but is released last year, maybe Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Like, I'm not sure if that was, we classified that in our last Game of the Year, but that was probably a game that I really, really enjoyed, but I only got to play this year.
No, yeah, like I'm finding that the same. Like, I'm not sure if Destiny 2 counts, as in I started, as in like in the week before Forsaken came out, I was kind of feeling that and realized, this isn't bad at all. And then Forsaken made it all the more better. And then earlier this year, you had games like Dead Cells, which just really stuck out in my mind. But and of course, everyone will talk about God of War being one of their favorites, Spider-Man maybe. But yeah, like it's like 2018 we thought was lighter on for quality games compared to 2017. But no, there are pretty good games coming out, including possibly Red Dead Redemption 2 later this episode. But we also have other stuff this episode, don't we?
We have a hardware review with a Naicon new stick that they released, as well as an interview with Ben Michael Byrne, the famous Australian comic book artist.
Yes, to look forward to it. You know what? Let's just get straight into it, shall we?
Some 260 episodes ago, New Game Plus started out of our house in Mulgrave, and it was a new chance for us to, after level 3, to start another show, and we had one, I guess, celebrity interview at that point, and that celebrity, of course, was Ben Michael Byrne, author of Cranburn, NSCW, and Ek-Type. He's showing his wares to you. Ben, how have you been, mate?
I've been very, very good, thank you, Jason. How have you been?
Very busy, because obviously we've been doing television shows and all that kind of stuff, but you've been busy too. You've been making comic books, as you are wont to do. And probably the one that you've been going on the longest for at the moment, NSCW, which is what you stopped doing Cranmer for a while, you started NSCW. It's a bit of a kind of a joint of a mixture of collab of different artists and yourself, making your stories. What is NSCW to you?
NSCW is like an anthology that it all happens in the same place. So I think 35 different artists I was able to get from all corners of the world, including Brunei Darussalam.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And he wasn't even allowed to get his copy because the lady at the post office said it's too against our laws. So the poor guy, I don't know if he ever got his copy or not.
You know, he knew you meant well. That's all that matters. You know, yeah. So and so it is that kind of, like you've said yourself, it's very deliberately vague, and it's obviously weaving a conspiracy. Was it a bit of a mix-up from, you know, Mad Max in Suburbia?
It was a very different kind of comic, but I wanted to try something different. My first one was the action schlocky blockbustery. It's just go, 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 don't have to think too much. And this one I wanted it to deliberately be very, everything has a point, every number, every meaning, there's a lot of hidden stuff, a lot of symbology. I wanted to be a little bit arty-farty, but I try not to crawl too far up my own bottom.
That's good. It's good to have a hobby. And I guess, so, and that is, you know, that's something very different from thing. And that's where you can't help yourself, because you always have to do something, you want to keep trying and challenging yourself. So then you decided that Ek-Type was the way to go. Now, describe Ek-Type.
Ek-Type is basically a big bubble, goes over a large part of Australia, and everything inside the bubble is very different from what's without.
Nice.
Yeah, and has explosions and monsters.
You did that very succinctly compared to our conversation before. And I guess, again, that's another one of those, you know, it's almost that borderline Misty kind of thing where you've got the kind of the two different worlds, and the, you know, entering into the bubble changes people and all that kind of stuff. Why go? I mean, you've always been a sci-fi kid under it all. Why was that something you wanted to try?
It was just, it started off with a real basic idea. I started thinking about cloning, basically, because Ek-Type, if you Google it, you know, there's a bit of a hidden meaning there. But yeah, and it was one of those things, I just had one scene in my head, and then I thought, well, how would that scene actually be plausible? Because you can't just, and then from there, and then from there, and then before you know it, you've built this whole world around a germinated acorn. From little things, big things grow.
Yep, we got it, German. Yeah, yep, okay. Yep, you have those two different things going on at the moment. And then all of a sudden you decide, you know what? My old girlfriend's back in town. It's time to start courting her again. And that's why we're talking today, really. Like, as much as your other comics are cool, and obviously it's something different from what you do, Cranburn's back. I know, you're going to have to deal with it.
I thought we were saying live on TV. Sorry, Hong, but my girlfriend's back in town.
Whoops.
My wife's name is Hong.
Yeah, okay, thank you for... Jokes are funny when you explain them. Cranburn's back.
No, they're not. No. Straight man, I love it.
Cranburn's back. You've picked it back up. You're launching it very, very soon as we speak.
Yep.
Like, how's the reaction been?
It's been very, very positive. I am very heartened by the level of save some for me I've been receiving. It's very, very good. Basically, issue 11, it'll be an all-new issue, never been seen by anyone ever, except for me. And it basically picks up right where 10 left off. So you read 10 and then you pick up 11 and it's like it was never gone. Stephen King once said, write what you know, and I know how to be a bogan in the southeastern suburbs, so Cranbourne.
And it is funny to see, because for those people who, Danny Nong's reference, and they're the big bad, the Nongs, and the Nong, and and all the different kind of suburbs have their, I guess, they're different tribes. Is that the way to describe it? Is that the best way to describe it? It's got that kind of tribal
idiosyncrasies.
Yes, and so it is that unique concept. And I think that's probably the one thing that's I really like about you, and like is you're happy to put it in Australia and say, here's these usual sci-fi concepts. We see it happen in England, and we see it happen in America, and we see it happen in all these places. But what if X happened in the middle of Australia? And again, that was what made Mad Max revolutionary. And the fact that you're doing something similar in comics, I think, is really cool to reference, home soil. I guess if there was anything that you wanted anyone to take away who perhaps hasn't heard of Cranbourne, is there a place that they can check it out? Is there somewhere they can catch up on the mythology, or should they just come down to All Star and buy all your comics?
I think the best thing they can do if they're in Melbourne is to go to All Star Comics in Queen Street, Melbourne. There's a large selection of my comics there. If you're in the ACT, specifically Balconnen area, D's Books and Comics, he's a very nice person. And also, pretty much if you Google Cranbourne, you'll be able to find it online.
So that's with a K, so K-R-A-N-B-U-R-N.
Yeah, phonetic.
Yeah, phonetic.
I once said phonetic to someone, he said, well, then shouldn't there be an E in the burn? And I was like, Cranbourne. Oh, you're right, it's not truly phonetic.
It's like Cranbourne,
It's semi-phonetic.
And that makes it even more appeling, because it's like, like all Australians.
Everyone loves a semi.
And on that note, Ben Michael Byrne, thank you very much for your time, mister.
Thank you, Jason. And thank you, world.
All right, Shani, so the death of Mad Catz left a big gap in the fighting, or the arcade stick market. They decided they wanted to make keyboards and mice. It's already a pretty flooded market. Rip Mad Catz. So it left a bit of a gap in the market for people to come in. So we had the existing names, the Quambas and the Hories. They came out with sticks, a little bit kind of, I guess, thinner, lighter sticks. I don't know, more Japanese style, whatever. Razor, of all people, released a stick. They released the Panthera, and now they've got the Panthera Evo. Naicon is the latest person to come along and decide that they want to release a stick. Now, they're known for obviously their controllers. They've got the Revolution. They've got a few other, the smaller cabled controllers. Yeah. And that's more their domain. So they decided to come into the fighting stick market. And to be fair to them, it's a pretty good stick. For a first cab off the rank.
For a first cab off the rank, it is a fairly good stick. But coming into it, the first thing you've got to know is it's not a budget stick. So you are getting quality a lot with this stick. You are getting all your, your nice, maybe not Samuel, maybe Hayabusa buttons or whatever. But you're getting a high quality product, and everything about this stick is fairly high quality. There's a few issues here and there, but still, it actually comes out pretty nice.
Well, let's go into it so we can give people a better idea, a better understanding of what we're talking about. So like you say, the first thing you do notice is it is big, it's thick, it has a density, it has a weight to it that some of, especially again, the Japanese ones, the Chinese ones don't have.
Yeah, so honestly, I do enjoy the tactile weight of it. It just helps that, mashing your buttons, if you are that weird mashing style, if you are like that, you won't be having any actual movement of your...
It's built solidly.
Yeah, so even if you've got it on your lap and stuff, it will probably stay there when you're actually playing with it, vigorously. It's probably the right way.
Playing with the stick vigorously, yep.
Yeah. But other than that, there's a few other things that you should know about the stick. Customization?
Yes.
Let's start with there. Because
so that is a thing. So we mentioned, of course, that the Panthera has this ability as well. You can just pop it straight open and it does this. So very similarly, the Naicon has those abilities as well.
Yeah. So it's got a few of the small tools that you need for, like, if you want to change your stick to your Korean-style top hat. But, you know, nobody wants to
Some
use
people like Korean sticks, man.
other things you've got, you've got your screwdriver, but it's a hex
You got
drive.
the magic key. The magic.
This tool is very handy.
Yeah,
'cause,
Shane wants to steal it just to have in our assorted box of tools.
So yeah, if you do need to change your pieces here and there, you can change your shaft and everything like that.
Wow, man, this one's way more blue than the last
Okay,
week.
other stuff you can do with some of the tools.
And this is probably, I would say, the main thing that separates it is the ability to unscrew that bad boy,
Take off the faceplate and
take
change
off
the
your
art.
perspex and change your art.
Yeah.
And that is such a throwback. You know, like we were discussing it earlier. It's like iPhones and stuff. A lot of the sticks have they've got either art, so you buy like the Dragon Ball Panthera, for example, or you buy a thing, and it's the standards color. It's a standard thing.
Yeah.
So you've got that, and that's what it is. So it's that thing of you can't change it.
No.
People put stickers on it, people put whatever on it, but you can't change it. This is
core art.
fully customizable.
Yep.
So
So that's probably one of the biggest great things about it. Other than that, you've got a fair amount of space in here. So if you want to keep some stuff in here and stuff, it should be all fine too.
yeah, keep your lunch. There's a bit of room for a sandwich.
Not that
Maybe a juice
stuffy.
box, but I wouldn't risk it.
That and all the wiring stuff, it's all very well
So
done.
like all of it's there, ready to go, and
Yep.
that is the thing. So the nice thing about that is, and this is probably the point of contention. This is probably your biggest point of contention, is the feel of the buttons.
Yeah.
These buttons are a little bit, I want to say, hoary buttons. They're still somewhere. I'm pretty sure the mechanism is somewhere. And all
I
that
believe
kind of
so,
stuff.
yeah.
The stick feels nice. We haven't broken it in, but the buttons are a bit hoary, and I don't know, like.
So by hoary, we mean more like it's fairly
They're shallow
deep.
presses?
Yeah,
Or- yeah.
well, like the press itself is shallow, but like you do go a fair way down.
Yeah.
It's fairly loud, clicky sound. So if you do like to make a fair amount of noise with your buttons, that can sometimes throw off your opponents if you do like that kind of
Just
stuff.
clackety, 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 clack.
But you can also, if opponents do like to listen to your inputs, who whatever.
Yeah.
There is those the kind of things if you want to worry about. It's more about tactile feel.
And that is one of those tactile things. But again, because it's so customizable, you can pull the whole assembly out,
Yep.
change the button the whole way through to the switch. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So again, it has that customization,
Yep.
which a lot of people will appreciate with it. Like we've discussed, though, you prefer that kind of the heavier ones that come standard with the Panthera.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard to jump
Switch
on the
it
old
up.
eBay, swap them over.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's your thought process.
The other thing you've got your buttons on the side, so you've got all your start select, your home buttons all on the side, even your touchpad with the Soul Calibur stick. Yeah, that's some things with other sticks not having that, and then you can't actually get out of the button test menu.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. But the one big thing that it does have that is not necessarily unique to this, but is very handy, is the fact that it has a PC mode. Like straight away, you just switch the thing over and it works on PC.
So the Panthera doesn't exactly have that, but they have drivers installed when you download, and you can play it on PC. It's all fine. Quamba has that, but I had
Don't work
issues
properly.
with
Yeah,
Quamba,
yeah.
and there's no actual online drivers. That was an issue. This switched to PC, plugged it in, reads an X
It's like
input.
X input, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah,
so
yeah.
it straight reads up as an Xbox controller, and all good. Like,
So that means, if you do like yourself, you have Street Fighter or Tekken or whatever on PS4 and you have it on PC,
Yeah.
bang.
Yeah,
Literally
exactly.
one switch and it'll work on both.
Yeah.
So that, again, in itself is a handy addition to the thing. You mentioned it earlier when we were discussing it, was the only other thing that you would think from a tactile sensation is having this much space for your wrist to sit. Now, again, your mileage may vary. Everything we're saying about this that we've noticed is stuff where you or me may not like it, but it may be exactly what someone else is looking
so
for.
yeah, the front part here is a bezeled kind of like
Yeah, I
tactile
guess,
feel.
yeah.
So you're basically, you've got a weird kind of sensation on your wrist here when you're putting it there. You don't actually have the angle that some of the Pantheras also have, or the Panthera does have. So if you like it resting on your angle and on your wrist, you don't have that on this stick. But like honestly, the bezeled feels nice as well.
Yeah,
but
it's again, it's one of those things. Even if you're not used to it, when you start playing it, you'll get used to it very quick. Yeah.
The other one thing we probably should mention as well is the actual cable tray.
So unlike the Pantheras, which are the screw bolts,
So this is straight in here. There's a cable about like 1.5 meter or whatever a length. It's probably the one part where you're going to actually have the weakness.
It's a plastic clip and it's a spring hinge.
Yeah.
And so I think after repeated presses, you might have some issues there. But we haven't noticed any, and
exactly.
You've had it for a while now, so it's been interesting to see. I guess the hard question becomes, and you touched on it briefly at the start, the Quamba Obsidian comes in at not necessarily half the price, but about 60% of the price.
Yeah.
This is line price with the Razor. Now, again, Razor came into the market they'd never done an arcade stick before.
Yeah.
So they came in fairly fresh, but they had a reputation for doing hardware. Naicon are the new kids on the block, and a lot of their controllers are really, really good. I use the Revolution pad myself. So it's going to be tough for them to breach that market and sit at that price range. I worry whether being line priced with the Razor will hurt them a little bit.
It may be a weakness there, but that said, it's still a fairly high quality stick. And a lot of this stuff that you find that, or maybe it's your first kind of try and stick, there's none of those issues there.
No.
So
yeah, this isn't like the Venom, where it was very much a budget stick. And as a result, it was great for a budget stick, but it was a budget stick.
Yeah.
This is solid. It's got all the bits you need. If you want to learn how to play with it and fix your stick and all those things, it's all there ready to go. So it's a different value proposition.
Yeah. So honestly, it's probably more tactile feel. If you like this kind of tactile feel, it's definitely a good stick. If you like the Razor, maybe just go there.
But at the same time, you wouldn't be hard pressed if this is what you ended up with. Now, I think it's important before I start my next piece to cover off something that's kind of sat out there for a while. I have never been a fan of Red Dead Redemption. The first game, for me, they advertised it as the authentic Western experience, and that was Rockstar's words specifically about Red Dead Redemption 1, that it was the authentic Western experience. But it was, for all intents and purposes, Grand Theft Horse, which was funny coming from the fact that GTA 4 was pushing way more into that realism angle. So I didn't enjoy that. I thought it was paced badly. I thought Marston, while he was an okay character, the game got carried by the ending and then the epilogue. I just didn't like it. I actually thought Undead Nightmare was a better use of the franchise. So I come into Red Dead Redemption 2 a little bit jaded. And it's not that I thought it was inherently going to be bad. I just thought, well, it's not for me. I didn't enjoy the first one. And I deliberately had gone out of my way to not watch any of the promotional videos or anything like that, because that was my downfall previously. I have a bad habit, if I let myself get carried away, of getting Molyneuxed, where I will read into what the developers say and what they promise, and it would just disappoint me. So I specifically went out of my way to avoid it, to give it the best chance I could to impress me. So let me be clear. For my money, Red Dead Redemption 2 is game of the generation. I genuinely think this is about as close as Rockstar have come, except for one other game, which I'll cover in a bit, and probably the industry have come to giving you a full experience inside of a video game, and be that both aesthetically, because the game is beautiful, be that from a gameplay and engagement point of view, because they've added these extra elements that I think they were missing. And I think even from a storytelling point of view, they nail it. So let's kind of break it down a little bit, I think is probably going to be the best way that I can go about it. Now, this is the thing with Red Dead Redemption 2's graphics. As much as they are great, and I'm sure they look even better on a PlayStation Pro or an Xbox One X, it's not even necessarily about the graphical fidelity, which again, I'm playing this on OG Xbox, yes I know, and it still looks fantastic to me, because it's not necessarily about how many polygons it renders and what resolution it's in, but it's about how they nail the aesthetic that they are going for. And each of these states, and they are states whether they want to call them or not, are what they are meant to be. Georgia, Louisiana, all these different places, they all feel like the areas that they are meant to be representing. Like, you're down in the bayou, you're up in the mountains, all of them really nail exactly what they're trying to do. And that's not only just from oh, look, the weather's so pretty, and look, the forests are pretty, which is true, because the weather is pretty and the forests are pretty. But even from even the towns look like you would expect. Like, you go through Rhodes, and Rhodes looks like an old plantation town, an old slave town. It just, if you've ever seen a movie from that era, it just looks like it. It just nails what it's going for. And even in your little traveling band of people, you've got all these different people from these different backgrounds coming together and it just nails it. It just nails what it was like to live that, freewheeling, small band of rugged outlaws kind of life. It just so readily nails its aesthetic that I think it goes above and beyond so many other games on that front. Then we cover into the gameplay. So this was the one thing that really bothered me about Red Dead Redemption 1, was just how, I don't know, it was more arcadey than it should have been. Like, it was literally just whistle your horse, it'll show up, get bit by a snake, doesn't matter, you'll be okay. In this one, you go from, you have to eat or you'll get skinny. So it's a little bit San Andreas-y / Metal Gear Solid 3. You have to eat or you get skinny. You have to brush your horse. You have to feed your horse. You have to bring food back to the camp. You have to donate supplies to the camp. And you can do this to as much or little an extent as you want outside of certain missions which force you to do it. And I love that about it. I love the fact that I can just go on a hunting trip and they haven't seen me for 3 in-game days. And I go, oh, Arthur, good to see you. It's been a while. And those random interactions, while obviously gamey, and this is the thing, it never escapes being a video game, but I don't think it wants to. I think if anything, it is an embrace of all of the, not necessarily the cliches, but all of the storytelling mechanisms that games allow us to have. I think it nails that so super well, combined with the gameplay, combined with everything else. Even the clunky Rage engine, and it's still clunky, I know it's been 10 years since I've had it, it's still clunky. Even the Rage engine does such a good job of conveying the world around you. And I guess perhaps this is the most important part for me at the very least. The great thing about it is, yes, there's a morality system. The morality system can be a little bit weird sometimes, and I guess it depends on what the perspective from the moral system is. You know, for example, you find an old slave driver who, you know, you show his mission, you find out he's a slave driver, you tell him, you know, you're a scumbag. And then if you kill him, you get moral points. And I don't know if I agree with that, but I get it if we're looking at it from certain perspectives. But Arthur as a character reflects on what he's done. He realizes that similar to John Marston, who obviously Marston's story is set after this, and Marston does actually appear in this game, he realizes that the Age of Outlaws is coming to an end. And it's just them barreling down towards what you know is going to be a very sad climax. And it's him, you know, connecting with these people and sharing their stories and all this kind of stuff. It constructs a world. It constructs a world that is so, there's no seams that need picking that make it worse. And I think it does such a great job of that. And Arthur, even as a character, does such a great job of being, yep, he's the steadfast, you know, no nonsense cowboy, but there's some depth there. And I think it just genuinely, as an expression of video games as a storytelling medium, it does such a good job of conveying it, even if you don't like the characters and even if you don't like the story. And I can understand both those. I think it does such a good job of what it sets out to do that it gets my thing. So all in all, I think that of this generation of video games, and like I say, I think next generation is going to start sooner than you think. Red Dead Redemption 2 is perhaps the best game that has been created this generation. I'm happy to hear why you think that I'm wrong. I won't necessarily agree with it. And don't get me wrong, I still think Rockstar's best game is Bully, hopefully for Bully 2. But yes, Red Dead Redemption 2, is it worth playing? I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, especially with the addition of all of these things that I love about it, all of these extra, people would consider them tedious things. But yeah, for my money, game of the generation.
Some very bold claims there from Jason, game of the generation. But it appeals directly to his sensibilities. He said it in the review, just the mundanities of eating, of hunting for yourself, of grooming your beard. It's the stuff that's right down his alley ever since Metal Gear Solid 3.
I think it is one of those games that has literally been marketed just for Jason. I think there's probably too many Jasons out there, but hey, that game's probably sold well. And you know what? It's probably going to be a really big contender of the Game of the Year at least. Let's go.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. It's basically between that and maybe 2 other titles, which you have to find out by watching future episodes of New Game Plus. But as well as that, games have become more, as we move into the games as a service, games are becoming more and more just about that sort of busy work. You play Final Fantasy 14, you're pretty used to this, right?
You can't say that because you play Destiny too, so hey.
Gotta get those dailies and weeklies.
Exactly. It's almost coming back to the MMO retention kind of thing, something that's always changing week or something that you can only do once a week or, something that even daily gets you back into the game and makes you just keep wanting to come. Honestly, the thing that's maybe going to be pretty much make or break for the retention of maybe Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably going to be its online.
Oh yeah, whether it follows in lockstep the path of Grand Theft Auto Online, which was very successful. The reason why it took so long between that and this game here, to be honest, I don't see them going far away from that path because Red Dead Redemption 2 is if anything about the verisimilitude of cowboy life, and you're not going to be able to reenact that by having daily quest counters and things like that. That's
it. I think there's a few ways that you can go with that to make it just an online cowboy experience, and there's a lot of the groundwork there already in the single player that they can just expand on.
No, yes, but Red Dead Redemption 2 is still a very big game. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about it to us on our Facebook page or our Twitter page or our YouTube channels, all of our socials. We are New Game Plus TV, one word, no spaces.
You can also watch us on Twitch and I believe on our YouTube, New Game Plus No spaces.
And we are also online at www.newgameplus.tv. Thank you very much for watching us this week. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Don.
And we will see you next week.